let's graph this now. Step 1 is to take this formula right here and to find the x value of the vertex. The x value of the vertex. So there's a 1 here. The x squared coefficient is always your a. The x coefficient is always your b. So I encourage my students to write those down so you can see them. A equals 1, b equals -2. So see this negative sign, bring it down. See the b right here, go ahead and put -2 up top. In the denominator we have 2. A, we're going to substitute 1, so 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. That's a +2. So a negative over a positive makes the whole fraction become negative. However, there's a negative out front, so that makes it negative, a positive fraction. Let's go over that again. A negative over a positive makes the whole fraction become negative. But there's a negative sign here, so a negative makes the fraction positive. 2 over 2 is 1. So there, I'm halfway done with my vertex. My vertex is 1, comma, something. Alright, now, step 2, we're going to take this value and substitute it in for x right here. So for x, I'll put a 1. For x, I'll put a 1. And here we go. 1 times 1 is 1. -2 times 1 is -2. +6. If you combine those numbers, you will get a 5. Now, if you're using a graphing calculator, you did not have to do all of this. Just type this into your grapher and hit second graph, and up will pop the table of values for you. Okay. Alright, the next step is to write a table of values that holds 5 ordered pairs. And right in the middle, put the vertex. So my vertex goes right here, 1, 5. Now, if I've got a 1 here, we'll go up. That's 2, 3, and then go down, 0, -1. So now I've got to substitute these values in for x. So for x, I'm going to substitute 3. 3 times 3 is 9. -2 times 3 is -6. +6. So I'm going to put a 9 right here. Now, here's what I like to do. I go to my bottom value next because I have a whole number right here. This -1 should also give me out a 9 like the 3 did. So I'm going to see if -1 gives me out a 9. If it doesn't, I might have made a mistake with my vertex. Let's see what happens here. Put a -1 there. Put a -1 there. -1 times -1 is +1. -2 times -1 is +2. So +1, +2, +6. Bingo. Booyah. +9. So next I'm going to substitute 2 in for x. So I have 2 squared minus 2 times 2, +6. 2 times 2, 2 squared is 4. -2 times 2 is -4. +6, well, +4 and -4, they cancel out, leaving you with 6. So I should get a 6 here also. Let's see if I do. Let's put a 0 in for x. A 0 in for x. 0 squared is 0. 2 times 0, 0, 0, minus 0. +6 is 6. So good. Now I should have done this earlier. I didn't. Let's come over here to my pre-cal thing here. Let's copy this real quick. And here we go. Alright, let's plot these points. 3, 9, so over 3. Then up 7, 8, 9. 2, 6, over 2, up 6. 1, 5, over 1, up 5. Then 0, 0, 6, so 0, 6. And then -1, 9, so -1, 9. I went pretty fast on that. Next time I'll go a little slower. But there's the graph. Make sure it's curved here at the bottom. Nice curve. Comes up. And put arrows on the end. Okay, so your vertex then would be 1, 5. And by the way, what's the x value? X. So if I asked you for the axis of symmetry, the axis of symmetry would be x equals 1. It would be a vertical line going right through 1 on the x-axis. Alright, number 31. Step 1, we're going to find the vertex by using we're going to find the x value of the vertex by using -b over 2a. Negative over 2a. Well, here's my x squared term. There's a negative 1 here, so a equals negative 1. Here's my x term, so b equals 6. So for b right here, bring down your negative sign out front. B is going to be a positive 6. 2a, a is a negative 1. So 2 times a, 2 times negative 1, that's negative 2. Alright? So I have a positive 6 over a negative 2. A positive 6 divided by a negative 2 is negative 3. But don't forget there's a negative sign right here. So a negative makes the 3 become positive. So there we go. I'm halfway done with my vertex. Now to find the y value, which goes right here, the y value, I'm going to pick up this 3 right here and put it in for x. Now whenever there's negative signs, be really careful. Bring down your negative, then for x put parentheses, then positive 6, then put a parentheses for x, and then negative 9. Now you square the 3 first before you worry about the sign here. Do your powers first. So 3 times 3 is 9, but there's a negative sign here, so negative 9. 6 times 3 is positive 18. Bring down your negative 9. Well, if you combine all of this, you'll get a 0. So your y value is 0. So steps 1 and 2 are finished. Now I need a nice table of values that holds 5 ordered pairs. So right in the middle, I'm going to put 3, 0, my vertex. So we're going to go up from 3, that'd be 4, 5. Go down from 3, that'd be 2, 1. And here we go. Let's substitute 5 in for x. So bring down your negative sign, then parentheses for x. If you have a grapher, by the way, you can just type this equation in and pull up the table of values and you're fine. Okay, you square the 5 first, that's 25, but there's a negative sign here, so negative 25. Then positive 6 times positive 5 is positive 30. Then bring down your negative 9. If you combine all of this, you will get a negative 4. Negative 4. Now, because I have a whole number right here, that means this number here should match this number here. So I'm going to go ahead and jump down and put 1 in for x next. I should get out negative 4. Let's see what happens. Bring down your negative sign, then put a 1 in. And then positive 6, substitute a 1 in. 1 times 1 is 1, but there's a negative sign here, so negative 1. 6 times 1 is a positive 6. Negative 9. If you combine those, you will get a positive 6 and a negative 10, which is a negative 4. So it checks. That's good. Okay. Now, I'm going to substitute 4 in for x next. So negative sign, then parentheses for x. Always put a parentheses when you're making a substitution for a variable, students. Get into that habit. That's a really good habit to have. Okay, you first square the 4, that's 16, but there's a negative sign here, so negative 16. Positive 6 times positive 4, positive 24, and then a negative 9. That will give you out a negative 1. Okay, negative 1. Now 2, when I substitute 2 in a second here, I should get out negative 1. Let's see what happens. Okay, I'm going to put 2 in for x, so a negative sign, then parentheses for x. Then positive 6, then parentheses for x, then negative 9. Square the 2. 2 times 2 is 4, but there's a negative sign here, so negative 4. 6 times 2 is 12, positive 12. Bring down your negative 9. Well, if you combine this, you'll get negative 13 for your negative numbers. Positive 12. Combine, you'll get negative 1, which you're supposed to. So students, there we go. We're good. We are so ready to graph now. Let's go ahead and graph this parabola. My first ordered pair is 5, negative 4. So 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 4. My next ordered pair is 4, negative 1. So over 4, negative 1. And by the way, in the last problem I should have said something. Notice your a was a positive 1. Since a is positive, the parabola opened upward. Here a is negative, so I know the parabola is going to open downward. Okay, my next ordered pair is 3, 0. Right here. My next ordered pair is 2, negative 1. And my next ordered pair is 1, negative 4. I'm not going to try to be some perfect artist because you guys know I have no drawing skills at all, but try to be as neat as possible, okay? And there's your parabola, alright? So if I asked you guys, hey, what's the vertex? You should be able to tell me 3, 0. 3, 3, comma 0 is this ordered pair right here. Now, is that the highest point or the lowest point on the graph? That's the highest point in your previous problem. Was your vertex the highest point or the lowest point on the graph? The lowest point. It was way down here. Everything else was up here. Here, your vertex is up here. All the graphs down here is the highest point. If I asked you to write the axis of symmetry, the imaginary dotted line that goes right through the vertex, well, it's a vertical line, so you'd put x, and the x value of your vertex is 3, so you would put 3. There is the axis of symmetry. X equals 3. Number 32, or number 33. Alright, here we go. Number 1. Step 1, find the vertex, the x value of the vertex by using this formula right here. There it is. So, a is going to be a positive 1. That's my x squared term. And by the way, I'm going to tell you something right now. If they put 14x first, positive 45 second, and x squared last, a is still 1. A is always the number in front of x squared. B would still be 14 because 14 is with the x. Doesn't matter where they're at. It matters what number's with the x, that's your b, and what number's with the x squared, that's your a. Alright, here we go. B is going to be 14 because that's the coefficient of your x, or the number with your x. So for b right here, I'm going to put 14. Now in the denominator, 2 times a is 1, so it's 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Bring down your negative sign. 14 over 2 is 7. Bring down your negative sign. So there we go. The x value of my vertex is negative 7, so I'm doing pretty good so far. Alright, now let's go ahead and find the y value right here, my y value. Everywhere there's an x, I'm going to substitute negative 7. So parentheses for x, then 14 parentheses, and then a positive 45. Alright, 7 times 7 is 49. Positive 49. 14 times 7 is, a positive 14 times a negative 7 is a negative 98. And then bring down your positive 45. Now if we combine our two positives, we get 94. So we have a positive 94 and a negative 98. Okay? Now this is a lot of big numbers, so I have all of these props entered into my grapher. Let me scroll down to this one and just make sure I'm not making any mistakes on this. I think I'm doing fine, but I want to make sure. Okay, if you combine this, you'll get a negative 4, and my grapher is telling me that that is correct. So my vertex is negative 7, negative 4. So now I'm ready for a really good, solid table of values here. So here we go. Right in the middle, I'm going to put negative 7, negative 4. Okay, now going up, I'm going to get higher. That's negative 6, negative 5. Going down, I'll get lower. Negative 8, negative 9. So let's go ahead and put negative 5 in for x. So here's my x. Put a parentheses. Always put a parentheses when you're making a substitution of a value in for a variable. Always. When you square your negative 5, you get positive 25. When you take a positive times a negative, you get a negative 70. Then bring down your positive 45. Your two positives add up to a positive 70, I believe. And bring down your negative 70. So 70 minus 70 gives you a 0. So when you put negative 5 in, you're getting out 0. Okay? Now, because I have a whole number right here, that means this number here should match this number down here. So I'm going to put negative 9 in for x next. Negative 9. So negative 9 quantity squared. Positive 14 parentheses negative 9. Positive 45. Okay? 9 times 9 is 81. Positive times the negative is negative 126. Bring down your positive 45. Add your two positives together and you get 126 minus 126. 0. That's awesome. Good. Moving on. Alright, next we're going to put negative 6 in for x. So negative 6 parentheses squared. is 84. Negative 84. Positive 45. If you combine your two positive numbers, you get 81. Bring down your negative 84. You have $81. You owe me 84, so you pay off 81. You still owe me a negative 3. Alright? So when you put in negative 6, you get out negative 3. Now when I substitute negative 8 in, I should get out negative 3. We'll see what happens. If I was accurate here, hopefully I was. Negative 8 squared, positive 14 times negative 8, positive 45. Alright, negative 8 squared is 64. Positive times the negative is negative. This would be 112. And then positive 45. When you combine 64 and 45, you get 109 minus or negative 112, which gives you a negative 3. That checks, okay? So guys, we're doing really well here. So I'm ready to graph this parabola. And so here we go. My first ordered pair is negative 5, 0. So negative 5, and I don't go up or down. My up and down number is 0. My next ordered pair is negative 6, negative 3. So negative 6, negative 3. I think I'm going to have to move this over just a little bit so I have room to work here. Alright, my next ordered pair is negative 6, negative 3. So negative 6, negative 3. My next ordered pair is negative 7, negative 4. My next ordered pair is negative 8, so about right here, and then down, negative 3. And then my next ordered pair is negative 9, 0. So about right there looks pretty good, okay? So sketch your graph. All I ask is you don't go like this and put a V. Just do the best you can to round it a little bit at the bottom, okay? We're going to get into polynomial functions later, but a quadratic equation is a type of polynomial functions, and one of the characteristics of all polynomial graphs is they make all smooth, rounded turns. They don't make any sharp turns, okay? So that's why we don't do that. Now, your vertex is right here, negative 7, negative 4, so there's your vertex. Notice the A was a positive 1, correct? The A was a positive 1, so notice when A is positive, the parabola opens upward. Now also notice this point here is what? Is it the lowest? We call it minimums and maximums. Is this point here? Is this point a minimum point or a maximum point of the graph? Well, it's the lowest point on the graph, so this would be your minimum of the graph, okay? Your axis of symmetry, which would go right through the vertex, is going to be a vertical line. So we say x equals, and where does it cross the x-axis at? Well, this number right here. So x equals negative 7. There is your axis of symmetry. Okay, guys? Halfway done. 3 more to go. Here we go. Alright, number 35. Now at number 35, well, first of all, let's start off with our steps. And we're going to run into a little curveball, but it'll be fine. Now, step 1 is to find the vertex, or the x value of the vertex. Use this formula right here. Now the problem is there's no b, there's no x term, which is fine. So my x squared is here, so my a is negative 1/4. So right away I know the graph's going to, a is negative, right? So I know the graph's going to open downward like this, okay? Anyways, a is negative 4. Do you see an x term anywhere? No. I see an x squared term, but not an x term, like the last problem had an x squared term and an x term. A, B. In this problem, we have no b term or no x term. So what is b then? Obviously, b is just 0. Because really, you could put this if you wanted to. You could put plus 0x. I mean, 0 times x is 0. That's the same thing as adding 0. So technically, you could put that. So b equals 0. Okay? Now, I really don't care what the bottom's going to be. As soon as I realize my top is 0, I don't care if this number down here is 1,529,263.986. Okay? It doesn't matter. If the top of a fraction is 0, the whole whole fraction becomes 0, unless the bottom was also 0, and then you get into infinity and stuff like that. But obviously your denominator is not going to be 0 because a is negative 1/4. You're going to put a negative 1/4 here, so you're going to have 0 over some number. So I know when I simplify this, my number is going to be 0. So my vertex so far is 0, comma, and then something for y. So now to solve for y, I'm going to come up here and put a 0 in for x. So negative 1/4, then parentheses for x, 0 squared plus 4. Well, this is pretty simple. When you square 0, 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 1/4 is 0. So you have 0 positive 4. So 4. So your y value is 4. So now I want to draw a good sized table of values here that will give me enough room for 5 ordered pairs. And there we go. So my vertex goes right in the middle. 0, 4. Did I put too many of them? You have a math teacher that cannot count to 5. That should probably scare you a little bit. Alright, now moving upward, getting higher. 1, 2, going downward, negative 1, negative 2. Alright, so let's substitute 2 in for x first. Negative 1/4, parentheses 2 squared, positive 4. Now don't freak out. Take your time and use your calculators, okay? Take your time and use your calculators. Now, the first thing I want to show you is simply this. When you want to do your exponents first. So 2 times 2 is 4, correct? 2 times 2 is 4. So now you have negative 1/4 times what number? 4. We'll use your calculator if you need to. But a negative times a positive is negative. 1/4 times 4 is 1. So you have negative 1. Let's look at it again. You first simplify or do your exponents. 2 times 2 is 4. You have negative 1/4 times this. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times negative 1/4 is negative 1. Combine those and you get 3. So there we go. So now I'm going to, because I have a whole number right here, I should also get a 3 down here. So I'm going to substitute negative 2 in and see what happens. Negative 1/4. Negative 2 in parentheses squared, positive 4. Now here we go. I have negative 1/4 times this. Well, negative 2 squared. That means negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. So I have negative 1/4 times a positive 4. A negative times a positive is negative. 1/4 times 4 is 1. 1 positive 4 is 3. So yes, it checks. Next I'm going to substitute 1 in for x. Negative 1/4, parentheses 1 squared, positive 4. Now, simplify your exponents first. 1 squared is 1. So I have negative 1/4 times 1. Well, anything times itself is just 1. So anything times itself is whatever the number is you're multiplying. I'm really messing this up. Anything times 1 is just itself. How's that? There we go. Anything times 1 is just itself. So 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 1/4 times 1 is just negative 1/4. And then positive 4. Now, that gives you a 3 3/4. If you struggle with fractions, use your calculator. Use your fraction button, okay? But you will get out 3 3/4. So I should get out 3 3/4 here also. I'm going to check and see by putting negative 1 in for x. So negative 1/4. Negative 1 for x, positive 4. Now, when you square a negative 1, negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1. So now I have negative 1/4 times 1. Well, anything times 1 is just itself. So negative 1/4 times 1 is negative 1/4, and then positive 4. Now when you combine those, you will get 3 3/4, okay? So we're actually doing pretty good here. On all of our table of values, matching up, everything's looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and graph and we'll be done. 2, 3 is my first order pair, over 2, up 3. My next order pair is 1 and 3 3/4. So over 1, then up 1, 2, 3 3/4. So about right there, just estimate. My next negative 1, 1, 2, 3, and 3 fourths, so about right here. My next order pair is negative 2, 3, so negative 2, and then up 3. Alright, so we're going to sketch the graph like this, make it good and rounded up there. And of course, it's not going to continue to go out. Eventually, it's going to start coming down. And you can just sketch it. It's not, it's not super important that you get it perfectly right. We're just sketching it, okay? If we want to get it perfect, we would make our table of values have about 10 points or 15 points, okay? There we go. That's a pretty good graph. Now, here's my vertex. So if I asked you for the vertex, you would say 0, 4. Notice how your A was negative and it opened downward like we said it would. If I asked you for your axis of symmetry, you would say x equals 0 because an axis of symmetry is going to be vertical and it's going to cross. Here's my x value of my vertex, 0. So it's going to cross right through the parabola right here. There's my imaginary dotted line right there. Alright, so there's your axis of symmetry, x equals 0. Alright, moving on. 2 more and we're done. Okay, step 1 is to find the x value of the vertex by using this formula right here. Now notice your A equals negative 1/4 and your B equals a positive 1 right here, a positive 1. So this should be some fun. Let's see what happens. For B, I'm going to put a 1, bring down your negative sign. For A, I'm going to put negative 1/4, 2 times negative 1/4. Alright? 2 times negative 1/4. Well, a positive times a negative is negative. 2 times 1/4 is 1/2, okay? So now we have a positive 1 over a negative 1/2. Now, forget about this sign to the very end. Now, students, we can simplify this 2 different ways. First of all, you can type into your graphing calculators 1 divided by, and then put parentheses. It's so important you put parentheses. Negative 1 divided by 2, negative 1/2. And then close the parentheses. If you do that, you'll get out negative 2. It's very important to use parentheses because you're telling your computer this whole thing's a fraction in the denominator. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is just longhand, which really doesn't take long at all. You have a positive 1 being divided by a negative 1/2. Now you know from elementary and middle school, when you're dividing fractions, you flip the second one and multiply. So I really have 1 times, flip this, negative 2 over 1, or just 2. If you flip 1/2, you get 2 over 1 or 2. So 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. So no matter what method you use, this entire fraction right here becomes what? Negative 2. But hold it, there's a negative sign here. So we really have negative 2, which is a positive 2. So my vertex, I've got half of my vertex is positive 2. Next, I got to find my y value. Alright, so here we go. Where my x is, I'm going to substitute 2. So first I have negative 1/4, and then 2 squared, positive, then 2 for x in parentheses, positive 3. Now do this in your head. 2 times 2 is 4, so you have negative 1/4 times 4. Negative 1/4 times 4. Well, negative times a positive is negative. 1/4 times 4 is 1. Bring down your positive 2. And then your positive 3. That's negative 1, positive 5. That's a positive 4. So your y value is 4. Okay, so we're looking pretty good now. We can go ahead and draw our table of values. And right in the middle, we're going to put our vertex 2, 4. Alright, 2, 4. Now, because I have a 2 here, I'm going to go up to 3 and 4, and then go down to 1 and 0. And with that in mind, here we go. If you have a grapher, you can just fill these in. Okay, in fact, my grapher right now is saying this. My grapher is saying a 3 for here, and a 3 and 3/4 for here, And for 1, a 3 and 3/4. And for 0, a 3. So it's looking pretty good. But let's go ahead and substitute these and make sure we're accurate. Negative 1/4. I'm substituting 4 in for x. Every time I put a number in, I put a parentheses. First, square 4. 4 times 4 is 16, so you have negative 1/4 times 16, which is negative 4. Then bring down your positive 4, and then positive 3. These cancel out, leaving you with positive 3. Okay? Well, see, let's jump down to 0 to make sure we get out of 3 here. Put a check mark here, check mark here. That should be pretty easy. Anytime you're putting 0 in for x, it's pretty simple. I mean, I'm just going to do it in my head, guys. Put a 0 here. What's 0 squared? 0. What's 0 times 1/4? 0. Put a 0 here. Then bring down your positive 3. 0 plus 0 plus 3 is 3. Okay, so that checks off. Okay, now let's substitute 3 in for x. 3. So negative 1/4 times 3 squared. Positive, then parentheses 3, and then positive 3. Alright, here we go. First square 3, you get 9. Okay, so you have negative 1/4 times 9. Negative times the positive is negative. 1/4 times 9 is 2 1/4. And then positive 3. Positive 3. Well, combine your two positive numbers, you get negative 2 1/4 plus 6. And then you should, if you type this into your calculator, if you're not good at doing these in your head, then use your calculator, but you should get positive 3 3/4, which is correct. And then lastly, but quickly, let's go ahead and substitute 1 in for x, okay? So negative 1/4 times 1, then positive 1, positive 3. Well, when you square 1, you get 1. Negative 1/4 times 1 is negative 1/4. Bring down your positive 1, bring down your positive 3. Add your two positives together and you'll get a positive 4. So a 4 and a negative 1/4 is 3 3/4. So there we go. Alright. So all the values matched. We're doing very well. And so here we go. Let's plot these points and be done. Your first order pair is 4, 3. Over 4, up 3. Next order pair, 3 and 3/4. Over 3. And let's see. Yeah, over 3. And up 3 3/4. And then over 2. And up 4. Over 2, up 4. Next order pair is 1 and 3/4. 1, 3/4. So another wide parabola. My last order pair is 0, 3. So again, we're not looking for perfection here. Just looking for a general sketch of the parabola. Like this. That's sufficient. And then coming down over here. And that is sufficient. So your ordered pair, your vertex right here is 2, 4. Okay? 2, 4. Now, notice our A was negative, so the parabola opened downward like it's supposed to. If I asked you for the axis of symmetry, it'd be right here, going right through the middle of the parabola, and it's a vertical line, so we'd say x, your x value of the vertex is 2, so we'd say x equals 2. There's your axis of symmetry. This is it, guys. Last problem. Here we go. Step 1, we're going to find the x value of the vertex by using this formula here. A is negative 1/3, and look, there's no b, so b is going to be 0, which really makes it nice, because as soon as I realize my top is a 0, I don't care what number I have here. 2 times negative 1/3, it doesn't matter. The entire fraction is going to become 0. So my vertex so far is 0. Now, pick up 0 and substitute it in for x. Negative 1/3 times 0 squared, positive 3. Well, you're going to get 3, guys. Look, if you square 0, you get 0. 0 times 1/3 is 0. So 0 plus 3. So there is my vertex. So right in the middle I'll put 0, comma 3. Going up, that's 1 and 2. Going down, -1, -2. And here we go. Substitute 2 in for x, -1/3. 2 in parentheses squared, +3. 2 times 2 is 4. -1/3 times 4, -1/3. Times 4 would be -4/3, or -1 and 1/3. +3. That does give you 1 and 2/3. Okay, use a calculator if you need to, guys. That gives you 1 and 2/3. And as we've done these problems today, I've been going along with my calculator, checking these, and I forgot to switch over to this equation. So I want to check and make sure everything's good. And yes, so far, everything looks good. So let's move on. Now, I have a whole number here. So because I have a whole number there, then 1 and 2/3 should also come out down here when I put -2 in. So let's put -2 in and see what happens. -1/3, -2 squared, +3. A -2 squared is a +4, so -1/3 times 4 would give you a -1 and 1/3, just like the last problem did, +3. So once again, you would get out 1 and 2/3. Now let's substitute 1 in for x, and let's see what y value we get out. -1/3 times 1 squared, +3. Square your 1 first, and you get 1. Of course, 1/3, anything times 1 is just itself, so 1 squared is 1, -1/3 times 1 is just -1/3, +3. Well, that's going to give you 2 and 2/3. 2 and 2/3. Okay? So when I substitute -1 in, I should get 2 and 2/3. Let's see what happens, okay? Substitute -1 in, so -1/3, parentheses, -1 squared, +3. Square the -1. -1 times -1 is a +1. So you have 1/3 times 1. Well, 1/3 times 1 is just, or -1/3 times 1 is just -1/3, +3, which would give you 2 and 2/3. Okay, so there we go, students. I've checked my calculator. Everything matches up well. So here is my coordinate plane, and here we go. First ordered pair is over 2, up 1 and 2/3. Second ordered pair is 1 and 2 and 2/3, so over 1, up 2 and 2/3. Next ordered pair, 0, 3, right here. Next ordered pair, -1, and then 2 and 2/3, so -1, 2 and 2/3. And then -2 and 1 and 2/3. So -2, 1 and 2/3. So you're seeing a little bit of a curvature here, which is good. You're seeing the basic form of the parabola, not quite as wide as the last one was, but a little wider parabola than usual. Now my vertex is right here, which would be 0, 3. Notice A is negative and the parabola opened downward. That's really big to remember when we get into word problems for this chapter. And lastly, if I asked you for the axis of symmetry, you would say x equals 0 because it's a vertical line. We use x, and the x value of the vertex is 0. So the axis of symmetry is x equals 0. If I asked you to draw it, it would look like this, right here. Okay, guys, man, I hope this homework help video has been a help to you guys. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to